Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Mayday Moments. I am your co-host Dorothy Odell, and we have the amazing.
Mark Rothenberg here. So your other co-host, and it's my second one hosting. So you know, bear with me. Eventually, I will get this right. So, but we're not going to stop because we're
Yeah,
doing this as live as possible with no
that's right.
edits because we want it real, we want it raw, unscripted. Because we want to bring you us, we want to bring you real facts, real information, real opinions, and bring it to you straight from the heart. And today, in this post Veterans Day episode, we're gonna talk and preface the next episode today, where what could be argued as the real heroes in the military community that we don't often hear about or recognize, and that's the spouses. It's the wives and the
Absolutely.
husbands of the service members that are deployed, the men and women that are serving, that are defending our country, that are putting their butts on the line for us to protect us. It's those people that they love, that they leave at home,
Yeah.
that we don't hear enough about, and they're the unsung heroes. And we want to talk about it. We want to honor it, and honor them. And we have spouses coming in part two next week to talk about some of their experiences that are going on and some of the
Yes.
support that they've got or lack of support they've got. And I can speak from the first responder community. There's not a whole lot of support for spouses.
Yeah.
I know Dorothy's talked to several spouses recently with the military, and I'd love to get her take on all of it, and what
Abs-
she's heard, and her information in this, in tonight's episode. So Dorothy.
Well, yes. So it's interesting that we're having this conversation because today I did an interview with Spouse Link, and Spouse Link is the military spouses. Um, And so we had an amazing episode because it's like, well, you've interviewed several veterans over the last 2 years, and you know, what do they say about the spouse, right? And I said, well, she said, what was one of the things that everybody perceives as true, and everybody says the active duty member is the hero, which they are. Full disclosure, they gave up their lives, they gave up everything to serve their country and their communities, so shout out to them. But every veteran and first responder that I have talked to over the last 2 years has said the unsung hero is actually the spouse at home that's there with the kids, putting them to bed. If they're deployed, they're at home, the spouse is back at home with the kids, still putting everything together, working a full-time job most times. And they're in the veteran space, or in the military space. There are some different groups that they could surround themselves with and form a tribe with, but of course they would have to reach out for help, right? And so Anna Larson is a military spouse that I had the pleasure of talking with today, and she goes, there was a time when her husband was deployed, and everything was great except for this one deployment. Shit went south really quickly, and for 48 hours, her kids did nothing but sit in front of the TV, and lunch and dinner and breakfast was cereal, because she basically sat there and cried her eyes out for 48 hours. But that's, she's, the kids were still fed. Who cares if it was just cereal? Everybody was taken care of, but she needed to take care of herself. And so, husband's away, he's deployed, he has no idea what's going back at home, and nor would she want that on his mind, while he's defending his country. And so, you know, and our veterans, or the veterans that I've talked to, their first thing they said is the unsung heroes are their spouses back at home. So, yeah, I mean, and time again, and it's just not just one person that I've heard that from. So it was, and she said to me today, she goes, it was really nice to hear that you say that, because they're back at home trying to keep it together. And so it was really nice for her to hear that. So I made somebody's day today.
That's good. It's great when we can make somebody's day, and it is true that I'm not a veteran, and I'm but I've been a first responder. Um, Recently, moving on to a new chapter of my life uh, as a mental health advocate to get our heroes, to get our warriors, to get our families the help that they need, and looking at it and thinking about it. I know when I'm gone for 48 hours, or for 24 hours, sometimes 48, just on my normal duty, just on my normal shift. My wife's at home with 3 kids, and having to do the bath time, the shower time, the meal prep. They're having to do, she's having to do everything on her own. And as of late, since it's kind of shifted for me that now I'm getting a firsthand of, hey, you're Mr. Mom now. That it is not easy taking care of a family when your spouse is at work. And
Did
so I
you
can
get the house
have a
clean
new.
today too?
Uh, it was 2:15. I had a technological issue. I had to fix the vacuum. So for those of you who don't know me, I don't technology well. I'm getting better, but it is true, and and I want to go to that, to the point with what you shared, that the spouse was had 48 hours of just watching the TV. And let's talk about the news media. If we think back, I think back when I was a kid in the early 90s, we saw one report about what was going on during the first Gulf War during Operation Desert Storm. See one little 10-minute clip on the news, and that was it. Footage from behind the scenes, behind the lines, nothing really happening. And then you fast forward it to 2003, 2004, 2005, with the Operation Enduring Freedom, um, the Iraq War, the war in Afghanistan, and we're seeing things in real time just with technology.
Yeah.
We're seeing it almost minute by minute what's happening overseas, what's happening in that combat zone. And to think about that, to be at home, to know your loved ones there, and they're telling you what unit it is. They're telling you it's there. So I could only imagine what it would be like for a family member, for a spouse, for a child even, to be sitting watching TV, and all of a sudden it's their father's unit that's there, that has a reporter embedded, and they're in a firefight, and these guys are fighting for their lives, and now their kids are seeing it. Their spouses are seeing it, and just the amount of anxiety and worry that comes out of it. It's bad enough that it's almost instantaneous that notifications are happening when there's an injury or a loss. And let's look at the mental health. Nice door, Dorothy.
You like that, eh? I was like,
Yeah.
why do I have a virtual background when you don't? And then people could see my hat, my Sworn to Serve hat, which, by the way,
Yeah.
Ty Orr's business, Sworn to Serve, he is active duty member. So not only do I salute my men and women retired, I also help them that are still active duty. Sorry, that was just a plug for Ty Orr.
What Dorothy doesn't know is this is a virtual background.
It is not.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I just admitted I'm not that technology, that not that techie. I couldn't do this. So,
Anyways, getting back to what you
and
said,
this is
you're
why,
right.
and this is why we don't edit. But information at its fingertips, and the impact that it's doing, causing the anxiety, causing the increased stress on somebody who's already stressed, who's already anxious, and now compounding it. Then you have that vicarious trauma. So you have that worry and that fear that spouse is feeling of knowing their loved one's deployed to a war zone, knowing that that phone could ring somebody could show up and say, tell them, be the bearer of bad news that, hey, your husband, your wife, died in the line of duty,
Mhm.
and having that anxiety and that worry and that fear is now compounded by the technology that we have, that everything's instant,
Absolutely.
and
Well, it's
then
funny.
seeing it.
It's funny you said that. There was somebody today that posted on LinkedIn that says, "Do you think this world has gotten, I forget the exact word she used, but bad or evil, And I said, I don't, yes, no, or not sure. And I said, well, today there's more technology, so we see everything that's going on. That doesn't mean that there wasn't wars back when we were kids. That just means we're seeing it now at our fingertips. We're actually seeing things in front of us where before the news wasn't the way it is today, or mainstream media, or and not to say everything you see on the news is actually legit either, because, we all know people are getting paid off. And so that's just my personal opinion. Um, and that's all I'm saying before I
Yeah,
get myself into trouble. And
that's a
as
whole other
some,
podcast,
it's a
whole other
whole
rabbit hole.
other podcast, man. And I probably would have the FTC on my ass on that one. But, anyways, getting back to that, as you're right, as somebody who has had family that have served, and thank God my uncle was never deployed. Um, he was in the Canadian Armed Forces before he retired, and but the thing of it is, he was never stationed around where we lived. He was always out in either Calgary or Alberta. Yes, I'm Canadian. And so he was already out there, or Kingston, or things like that. So he was never at home being um, Windsor, Essex, Kingsville area. And I used to always, okay, so I never have told anybody this. I used to have this dream that he would come home, show up at my school, and take me out of school. I thought that would be the best thing in the world. You see all these commercials around Christmas time when the deployed are coming home for Christmas. And I would sit there and tears rolling down my eyes, thinking, how lucky that they get to spend time with their family and how blessed they are. And that's something I wanted, and that never happens. But oh well. You can't always get what you want. But yeah, I couldn't imagine if my uncle would have been deployed and seeing that, that on the screen, what that would have felt like. But
And then talk about the vicarious trauma.
mm, yeah.
You know, seeing live firefights, knowing those are real people, knowing that those are your fathers, mothers, husbands, wives, sons, daughters, friends. They're people they've served. Friends, partners, um, squad mates, that they're able to. Um, that they're able to see that, and then you're seeing these firefights, and it becomes real at that point.
Yeah.
That, oh, hey, those are real bullets. Real people are getting injured. Real people are dying. It's not a video game. It's not some newscast. These are our countrymen. These are our service members that are over there doing it, and just the trauma of that. And I'm sure if we went through the hours and hours of news footage over the last 20 years we've been at war, we'll find footage where it's caught on video, where we've lost a service member, and that service member had a family, and there's a possibility, if it made it on the news, that their family saw it happen live. And my personal opinion is that needs to stop. One of the worst things, and I say it's bad, is that technology, is that we have information at our fingertips. It's great when you need to fact check someone. It's great when you need to look something up, or have a spur of the moment. Oh, hey, let's go see the movies and find it real quick. You don't have to find a newspaper.
Mhm.
You have it at your fingertips, but then everything else is at your fingertips as well. The news is there, social media is there, temptation's there, everything's there, and it's just that evil that you spoke about earlier, Dorothy. There's always been evil in the world. It's just now we're more aware of it.
Well, that's exactly what I said this morning. I think, I think it's always been there. It's just we're hearing about it more now. Um, you know, we,
And to a part we're becoming desensitized.
yeah. Well, I've had somebody. I don't watch the news, and people say that I'm naive and get my head out of my ass. However, why would I watch something that's going to instantly get me depressed? There's enough crap that goes on in my daily life that I don't need to watch mainstream media and get somebody blown up or see somebody get blown up. Like I don't need to do. I don't need to watch that. I don't need that in my space. Um, just the other day couldn't the road was closed because some 16-year-old was instantly killed on a motorcycle in the road in front of me. And so I mean I don't there's that stuff too, let alone wars going on in Israel right now, let alone still the war in what do you call that, Russia. So it's
Oh,
just
Ukraine.
there's Ukraine. Like I don't want I don't want to watch that daily. I don't want my TV on CNN every day watching that stuff because I'll know I'll get depressed. And what can I personally do? What I'm personally doing is this: I'm providing a platform for people to get positivity, to get news, to have these Mayday moments where we can, be together, be uplifted together, and help each other out. That's the kind of media I want. I don't want to turn my TV on and watch people get bombed up or watch innocent people get blown away or kidnapped. That's not, I can't handle it. And I know I can't. So that's
Well,
just
I like
my,
back in the day, and I agree with you that yeah, knowledge is great and knowing what's going on is great. But if I want to know about the war that's going on in Israel, I can pull up a newspaper article. I can pull up and read about it. I don't need to be seeing the missiles fly. I don't need to be seeing the bodies being hauled out. Yes, it puts a human aspect to it, and with anything there, we'll see both sides of the argument after this airs. I guarantee it.
we're never going to get
But
the truth.
why? Well, and it's not even about finding the truth, or even partial the truth, or something unbiased. Why do I want to see the bodies of dead children being wheeled across the streets or being hauled off?
Mhm.
Nobody needs to see that, and that's the type of stuff that haunts you, especially if you've lived through it.
Mhm.
Seeing a decapitated body, if why do I need to see that? Why do I need to see somebody being decapitated on TV? Why does that need to be shown? Why do I need to see the body laying in the street afterwards? Nobody needs to see that.
No.
It's hard enough on our on the men and women that were there that had to witness it, and they have to live with that every day. Why are we making everybody else live with it?
Yeah. Agreed.
And and back and as we continue down other rabbit holes, which is why I love this, love our Mayday moment.
I was like, where are we
Uh,
going with this Mayday moment? Because I'm just like, we started with the unsung heroes of our spouses, and
and,
I'm like, how are we going to turn this into a Mayday moment?
and we went to our. It's coming. Give me a minute. We still have a few minutes, so give it time. We're working without a net today. Wait, we work without a net every night. We're not supposed to
Awesome.
tell them that.
Well, no, we're real, we're
So,
raw, and we're authentic on this show, and that's who we are.
and
That's what
and,
it's
and
about.
we don't, and we're not going to pull punches either. And if somebody needs to be called out, we're going to call them out. If there's something that needs to be said, it's going to be said. But back to our spouses, and yeah, talking about vicarious trauma and them seeing it, and the anxiety and depression, and not having the support.
Mhm.
And let's think about our career military members who move fairly often from base to base, and their families are uprooted and moved and travel, and it's new people, new friends, new contacts, new resources. They don't have that tribe, that's built. Is with being in a place for years, you can build that tribe. you can build that group around you, that support structure. You can build those other spouses, and that's where finding outlets, finding places that can connect you, uh, is paramount. It's paramount for anyone, but especially with the spouses, because there's not a whole lot out there. You can Google, support groups for veterans, and you get thousands of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Google search support groups for spouses. You're not going to find as many. It's not as prevalent. Uh,
I do know
down
that
in the
in the Florida area, sorry to interrupt you, but I know in the Florida area for first responders, I know Blue Guardian Network was putting together a spouse a thing for spouses. So I will have to contact my good friend Jonathan Kahuli again. Haven't spoken with that brother from another mother in a while, so I'll see if he's got that division set up yet. Because if so, that is a resource that we could definitely supply to our first responders spouses in that area.
yeah, we'll have to talk about that off camera
Yeah, well, I just said
because
it because I thought of it.
I love Jonathan to death, and I've been advocating for spouses not only through my fire department's peer support for about the last 2 years, but even with Heroes Badge and Warriors pushing to support our spouses, and that is something where organizations can come together, like Blue Guardian Network and Heroes Badges and Warriors and department peer support groups to support the spouses. I've seen spouse groups have the best intentions, but turn into a cliquey, mean girls club, as my wife put it. So it was all about riding your husband's coattails and his promotions, and not actually about being there to support your spouse, or being there to support other spouses, I should say. Uh, but again, our spouses that have to deal with the day-to-day stuff at home, while we're out serving our country, serving our communities, they're truly the unsung heroes. They're the ones that deserve, in my mind, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, they deserve more credit than I do as a first responder. If it wasn't for my wife standing behind me, keeping everything on point and everything locked down,
Mm-hmm.
and I can guarantee that most service members, most military members, will feel the same way, that their spouse kept it locked down, kept the home front secure, kept the kids healthy, growing, took care of the house, made sure everything's handled while they're off and focusing on their service and their task and what's in front of them. And they did that with confidence, knowing that they were coming home to a solid place.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people that deserve the love. Those are the people that are important, and that we really need to recognize, especially around a day like Veterans Day or Remembrance Day or Armistice Day, whichever you want to call
Which
it,
every
depending on where
country you, yes, here in Canada it's Remembrance Day. Over in the U.S., you guys have Veterans Day.
which it was originally Armistice Day, and then it changed. And on and you would have known that if you listened to our last Veterans Day episode, our Veterans Day special, you would have known that, as we dove into the history a little bit of Veterans Day.
Yes.
So, with our Mayday moment tonight, as Dorothy was wondering, how are we going to get there? In
You
talking
land
with
the
spouses
plane.
in the fire service, hey, we're bringing this plane in for a landing. Uh, with talking to the spouses, and in the fire service, and understanding that spouse should know you better than anyone else. The person that you live with is going to know when something's not right. And if something's going on, and I want to empower our spouses that are out there, that if they see something going on, and they see a change in their husband or wife, and their service members' mood, their attitude, their behavior, whether small or large, to say something, to show them the love and support that they need at that time, because they are going through something that they may not want to share. Because I know I'm guilty of it. I don't share everything that I've seen and everything that I've experienced. I know my friends in the military don't share everything they've seen, everything they know. I have a very, a good friend, John, that uh, we hope to have him on in a later episode. That just understanding what country was going on in the world at that time, where he told me he was deployed to, I understood, some of the atrocities he's seen, and he has to live with that every day.
Mhm.
He's not going to come home and put that on his spouse. I'm not going to put, what I see every day on my spouse. But I will tell you, my wife was the first one to notice that something wasn't quite right with me after an incident, after a shift, and was the one that encouraged me to go to find help, to find assistance when I needed it. When I was in need of a Mayday, I didn't realize it at first. She's the one who did. And and that goes for a lot of our, probably for everyone. I can almost say with certainty, all of our spouses realize that we're not okay before we realize we're not okay. And the sheriff is certainly looking for someone.
Is that a
Okay,
helicopter?
helicopter. Yep, sheriff's out tonight.
China Beach. China Beach. That's all I keep hearing.
Something's going down.
Something's going down.
Uh, that's all right. Ezekiel's with me. I got my dog. I'm good.
And I reached out to
So,
Jonathan while we're talking, because that's the best thing about having friends everywhere, and they're touch of a button on your cell phone. Currently, they do not have a spouse program, but he is still working on it. So, but I told him that we have this brand new podcast coming, or show coming out here with Mayday Moments, and perhaps we'll have Jonathan on the show later on down the road. You never know.
oh, I plan on having him on.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say, Jonathan is the only person that I know that has a preventative mental health program that he teaches the officers, and he's geared more towards law enforcement. That he
Yes.
teaches the officers those self-help skills, those coping skills, and how to deal with the trauma they're seeing before they ever get out on the street.
Yeah.
And having gone through his program myself and seen it, I wish there was stuff that I had at that time. And that's going to be a conversation for another episode, because tonight's about spouses.
Yes.
And I know we veer off, but it all comes back, because something like that is something that, which I'm going to write that down in my notebook, because one of my side projects, and I know I'm squirreling, I'm sorry, but deal with it, is
this is
doing
what
some
happens.
education.
This is perfect.
This is what happens on everything.
No, this is what happens when you. Okay, so hold on, because Mark is a now retired. I'm not fire chief, but you were. What was your rank? Firefighter. Thank you. And firefighter. So, and this is what happens. Like, you guys go through your traumas. You have your PTSD, and this is what happens. This is what it's like living with somebody who has PTSD and is working through it. And there's nothing to be wrong, or this is what happens. And we're being real, raw, and authentic on our show. And this is what happens. It's squirrel moments, and this is what happens. And so we're bringing it to you live and in the moment. But yes, going back to our spouses.
And with that, one of the things, I'm working with a clinician group right now, that we're in the building phase of being able to get more services for the spouses and the families and the children,
right,
of our veterans, of our active duty, of our first responders, And one of the things that we're looking at that's in the master plan as we're building this is that education point, that education part, and that's something that with the fire department that I was a member of, um, there was a push for it to bring in the families in of our new hires and kind of educating them about some of the resources that are there, and some of the stuff that their family members, their firefighter may see. And I think that's something important for any military spouse, any spouse of a first responder, to kind of get some of that education ahead of time, earlier in their career, so that when it does happen, it's not such a surprise, or so they can recognize it and try to get them the help prior to, so they don't end up in a situation where they're resorting to drugs, alcohol, before they get to that point of irritability and violence as post-traumatic stress kind of evolves, within a person. That the spouses are really, the spouses, husbands and wives can be the difference maker. And seeing that early detection, that those early signs of, hey, he's just not right, to where it might be a conversation that one of his buddies can have with him and say, hey man, are you okay? And be able to prevent something from happening.
Can I add something to that though too? Like, I get that you might not want to tell your spouse everything, but I think it should come to communication is key in every relationship. And as long as you could have even a small conversation with your spouse to say, hey, listen, right now I'm being triggered. I'm not 100% sure what's going on. I need a moment. And then, so your spouse doesn't feel like you're shutting them out, so that your spouse doesn't feel that it's their fault, and that your spouse doesn't feel that it's, that you're going to go off the rails at any moment. But in that, having that communication with each other is pivotal. And in some of these training courses that I know Jonathan is putting together, that is what's going to bridge that gap. How do you guys communicate with each other so that it's one harmonious household instead of a household divided? You might not want to tell your spouse everything, and they probably don't want to know everything, but as long as they know that you're okay, that's the main thing. And getting even to that communication sometimes can be hard. And I think that too also needs to be addressed, and, different things within a community as well. So that's my 2 cents on that. But next episode, what we're going to do is we are going to have, I'm going to get some military spouses here, and so they can add their 2 cents worth. I'll get military, you get first responders, and we'll hear right from the horse's mouth, so to speak, on what it's like to be a military first responder wife. How about that?
It sounds like an excellent plan. The question is, do I invite my wife?
I say so. I've never met your wife, and I think we should. I think she should. Well,
if you can hear the apprehension in my voice, but as somebody who stood by me through everything that I've been going through, and given her background, it would be nice to hear from her on it and what it's like, because she came in at year 13, 14 of my 17 years. So she wasn't there for a lot of the early parts of my career. And that would be something interesting to see.
Should we invite your ex-wife too?
Definitely want.
I'm kidding. Okay, I'm being a smart ass.
And she was with me for the middle part. So why don't we invite the fiance before her that was in there for the beginning, and we can just go with all three, and I'll definitely need a lot more than therapy at the end of it. I'm a glutton for punishment, but
Well, go
no.
with your current
Uh,
wife, and we'll
I'm
see
going to
if.
exercise a veto. Uh, but it would be interesting to where I was going with that was you uh, get some of the spouses that have been there from the start, some of them that came on through the middle, some of them that are experienced the end, and some that were there all the way through. And I have a feeling this may be more than just the next episode. This might be a 3 or 4 parter.
Well, that could be because as I'm talking, I'm having visions of people popping up in my head on who to invite, and that doesn't mean just because I invite them, they're available at when we need them. Um, so I'm making a list on my end to reach out. Um, anyways, we can do this off air, but to land this plane
Yeah,
because it's we just want to
we're
thank everybody. We're just like we said, we're getting off Veterans Day. So if you didn't watch the Veterans Day episode, we thank you for your service. And we are in remembrance of those that have lost their lives. Um, and so, we honor them and, you know, and thank you, Mark, for your service as a firefighter and serving your community. I wanted to say that personally on air so that people know that I'm just not your sidekick, that I do care.
and thank you, Dorothy, for always being there. And spouses, we love you. Uh, you mean the world to us, and we're here for you. And it's not just your firefighter, your service member, your officer that can call a Mayday moment. You can too, and I want to empower you that if you need a break, call a Mayday. Call in for support, call in for help, call a timeout, whatever you need to do, it's okay. And take that time for yourself as you're handling everything else. Well, while your loved one's off serving, make sure you take care of yourself and you take that time for your own meditation, your own prayer, your own self-reflection, your own coping skills, the whatever you do to decompress and to reduce stress, reduce anxiety. Make sure you take that time for yourself, both when they're there and when they're abroad, or when they're on shift, when they're on duty, whatever terminology you want to use. Take that time to take care of yourself,
Absolutely.
because God knows not all of us can take care of ourselves, and that we need that person behind us. Uh, and I hate saying it this way, but the old cliche, behind every strong man is a stronger woman. There is truth to that, and behind every strong woman there's a strong man.
Yeah.
And we can go down other rabbit holes with that, but I'm going to choose not to. But whoever you choose to love and share your life with, that's standing behind you as you're serving, look at them and stand behind them as well when they need it, because they need our support as much as we need theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as they check in on us, we need to be checking in on them, and making sure that our spouses are okay, and making sure that our spouses are feeling fulfilled and they're getting what they need. And if
Absolutely.
they're off, if you see your spouse is off, say something.
Mm-hmm.
Mention it to a buddy of theirs. Mention it to one of their friends, so that maybe they can get the help. And they can see, and you have more eyes watching, more people that are, oh, hey, something is going on, that we may be able to stop some of this trauma from manifesting into other things and
Yeah.
really setting in. And with that, as we're getting late, I want to be respectful for your time listening. We said in the first one, we want to keep this under an hour, so it's what I like to call the drive to work podcast time. Uh,
Yeah.
thank you for tuning in. Thank you to our veterans coming off Veterans Day. Especially big, huge thank you and love to all of our spouses that are out there that are holding things together. And I'm looking forward to the next episode and hearing these spouses. If you drop a comment, drop an email if there's something you want to hear, post a comment. We'll have the official Mayday Moments web email up shortly. Again, not so techie, working on it. If there's something you want to hear about, something you want us to talk about, we will. So, as they say in the South, I ain't scared. And we're not going to be afraid here to talk about those subjects that make us feel uncomfortable, that are difficult, and have those conversations, because those conversations are important. And as we sign off tonight, much love to the spouses, tons of respect, and you have our support. And if you're listening, thank you. Truly,
We salute you.
to all the spouses out there. We do salute you.
We salute you.
And is this a monkey see, monkey do thing?
Yes. All right, folks.
You're not getting me to
see you next week. See you next week.
We'll see y'all next week.
Bye for now.
Bye.